So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem Sailor Moon. So let's start the series. At the age of Kushina Uzumaki was 15. Her world ended completely and utterly. 3 of the 5 larger communities had destroyed her home village. Because of the bloodlines and few injustice that each branch of the clan possessed, they were afraid of the Uzumaki clan and Yuzu village hidden in the whirlpools. As the clan princess and a member of the royal family, Kushina shared the renowned chakra chains with many other women from the royal clan. The only man to ever own the shackles was her great-great-grandfather. When Minato Namikaze saw the attack, he was on his way to the village hidden in the whirlpools. Thinking quickly, he sent word back to the village hidden in the leaf by calling forth a toad. A green and black toad said, "Yo." As he produced multiple kunai, Minato said, "Gamaniko, inform the Hokage that Kumo, Kiri, and Iwa have attacked Yuzu. Reinforcement is required immediately." Gamaniko asked, "Minato, do you want me to get the old previous to come aid you?" Minato gave the little Masager toad a gentle smile. As he prepared to strike, he remarked, "That would be nice." Gamaniko said, rising in a puff of smoke, "You got it." A village tucked away in the leaf Sarutobi and Shikakunara, who was 15 years old, had been studying a map. "My boy, are you truly sure that will be their next move?" "Sir, what my father and I have worked out. They will be attacking Yuzu." "Word needs to be sent to the Yuzukage," said Shikaku. At that moment, a tiny black and green toad emerged from a smoke cloud. The Hokage turned to face the toad sitting on his desk. Sarutobi asked, "What word does Jiraiya send?" "He doesn't send anything, old man. It is Minato that has sent word. The Uzumaki clan is being attacked by Kiri, Kumo, and Iwa. They need backup," Gamaniko said. With a metal slamming into wood, the pipe in the old Hokage's mouth dropped to the ground. "No," he said in a whisper. Alongside Minato, children and a woman were racing in his direction. He sprinted over to them. A woman with black hair and long, fiery red hair halted in front of him. She spoke to him, "Leaf Shinobi. Are there others with you?" Minato said to the woman, "I apologize, but I am by myself. I did send word back to the village for aid." She gave Minato a quick glance. The woman said, "You are the one who has come for my daughter." Minato gave her a startled expression. He nodded his head stupidly slowly. He was dispatched at Mito-sama's request to return a female from Yuzu to Koona. "I see. Kushina-chan is in a cave about 10 miles from here with the other woman and children," the woman said. As she picked up a young girl and turned to Minato to pick up a young boy with crimson hair and blue eyes, she said to him, "Just follow me." Cave in the back of the cave, near an underground lake, Kushina watched over the infants and little children while the other woman attended to injured civilians. When she looked up, she noticed her mother approaching her while a young leaf guy held a small boy. "Mama!" Kushina exclaimed, getting up and sprinting towards her mom. As she set the young girl down, she said to Kushina, "My sweet girl. I am all right and I have brought the last of the children with me." Kushina glanced at the young man and said, "I'm Blade Mama." "But, who is that with you?" With a smile on his face, Minato said, "My name is Minato Namikaze. Mito-sama sent me to bear you back to the leaf." Kushina glanced at her mother before turning back to face Minato. She moved her long hair aside and gave her mother a hug, her cheeks softly flushed. A silver crescent moon appeared on her daughter after her mother kissed her forehead. At this, Minato's eyebrows went up. "I am sorry, Lady Uzumaki, for coming for your daughter during this trying time. If we had known your village was under attack, the Hokage would have sent others with me, said Minato. He was radiating waves of remorse that you could see and feel. Selenite said, "Please don't worry, my boy, and call me Selenite." Selenite glanced at the other people in the cave and at her daughter. "We can only be here for another day or so. Your father and the others will hold their ground as long as they are able to. But everything is gone, my dear. I will hold them back when they break past your father. I pray to Celine that we will have the leaf here by then or one of the legendi Sannin," she said to her child. She claimed that the tiny black and green toad Gamaniko materialized in a puff of smoke. "Minato-chan, the Hokage has ordered troops here and they will show up as soon as they can. Jiraiya is in the middle of battle with Hanzo the salamander and will come as soon as they are able to." He explained everything to them. Looked at the others, Minato said, "Thank you, Gamaniko. This might sound crazy, but do you think you and the other toads would be able to reverse summon everyone here back to the village?" he inquired. The small toad glanced at Minato and then at everyone else. He informed everyone before ascending in a cloud of smoke, saying, "I don't know, and I would have to get several of the others over here to help me. I'll be right back. I need to get others to come back with me." Looking at Lady Selenite, Kushina, and the kids sheltering behind her, Minato said, "I know Ma and Pa will come back to help get all the children and sick and injured back to the leaf. So, it is best to gather everyone and get them ready to leave." A lot of the little children were eager to witness the talking toad, because in their brief lives, they had never witnessed anything like it. They did, however, occasionally spot the odd talking cats across the village. After giving each other a nod, the two women assembled everyone who could travel. Unfortunately, some were unable to be relocated because they required medical attention. Returning to the leaf, Shikaku rushed into the office and declared, "Lord Hokage, troops are ready to head out. You ought to have let me and the others accompany you, Minato. However, you stated that there would be no problems because it was a straightforward escort operation." "You fool," he thought, famous last words. As he turned to face the windows overlooking the troops who had hurried to the southern gates, Sarutobi said, "Good. Good. I am glad to hear this. Tell them to leave no and move it. Stop for nothing till they are there to help our sister village." Returning to the cave in response, Gamaniko made fun of Ma and Pa, a number of other toads, and a big toad that resembled a samurai. When Pa hopped over to his youthful summoner, he asked, "Minato-chan, what have you gotten yourself into now?" With a sad, worried expression on his lips, Minato glanced down at Pa. As he gestured his hand to the children behind him and the sick and injured around the cave that they had gathered around when the toad arrived, he told Pa, "I had come to Yuzu on a personal mission for Lady Mito-sama. When I arrived, I saw the attack from Kiri, Kumo, and Iwa upon their village." Ma's heart shattered even more when she saw the youngsters sobbing and terrified. She questioned him, "Minato-chan, are we taking them back to the leaf?" Selenite turned to face her people and said, "Yes, we will take all that are able to travel back to the village so they can seek shelter and medical help." All 6 of the smaller toads started returning to the community in groups of 4. In front of them, the kids gazed at the tiny toads and laughed. The hidden leaf, there were 6 big puffs of smoke in Sarutobi's office. When the smoke cleared, his ANBU all surged around their commander and leader to shield him from the unidentified threat that was about to be revealed. They witnessed Ma and Pa with 4 other toads and small youngsters in front of their very eyes. All 24 of the little children in front of him caught his attention. They are war victims who have lost a great deal since they awoke that morning. A perplexed Sarutobi glanced at them and asked, "Ma, Pa?" As they all headed back up with smoke, Pa said, Saratobi-chan, there isn't time at this moment to talk. Just know we will be back for more and get some medics in here for we have some injured people coming. Cave they moved everyone who could move out of the cave in approximately an hour. Unfortunately, they had advised the toads not to waste their time with them and had left around 10 individuals behind because they wouldn't make it. In the event of an attack, they will remain and defend the cave. Kushina turned to face her mom. She said, Mother, are you coming? She informed her daughter, I am not able to leave without your father. She shook her head slowly, her eyes welling with tears and her heart aching. Kushina's gaze enlarges. With tears slowly trickling down her cheeks, she questioned sharply, But, Mother? Why not? Selenite stared at the young guy standing next to her daughter as Ma and Pa sprang on his shoulder for a last trip, and she said, Minato, take my daughter quickly before she fights you and make sure she lives a long and happy life. Minato shook his head and took Kushina in his arms as they both ascended on a puff of smoke, saying, I will Lady Azuanki. After a year she became the new keeper of the Kyubi no Kitsune after arriving at the village hidden in the leaf a year ago. Her life was permanently altered on that day. She wasn't certain, though, whether it was for the better or worse. However, her life would be permanently tied to her new residence, just as it was for her cousin Mito Uzumaki Senju. When Kushina arrived in the village, just a few positive things happened to her. The lady who arrived had adopted the lives of shinobi and civilians working odd occupations like bakers and blacksmiths, and many of the children survived to see another day. In addition to the few guys who also appeared. Another positive development was that she became close to her cousin Tsunade of the Sannin. In the girl's hour of need, the Slug Princess had taken on the role of a second mother. Additionally, Minato had fallen deeply in love with Kushina and confided in her one evening following his return from a mission to the village hidden in the snow. He wanted to tell the only lady he loves about that quest. Because of everything he had done in his life, that was his greatest regret, he nearly died there. As Kushina made her way to Tsunade's residence, she passed through the village under a full moon on a pleasant summer night. Because of everything Minato had told her was weighing heavily on her heart and spirit, she needed to talk to her family. She heard a cat's cries as she made her way down the ancient dirt road to Tsunade's house. She also heard a number of youthful voices laughing and carrying on. She noticed 3 young boys, all about 6 years old, holding down 2 cats as she peered into the dim alleyway. One was white like the moonlight illuminating the earth, while the other was black like the night sky. As she rushed to the children, Kushina said, "Hui. What are you brats doing?" When the 3 boys noticed who was approaching them, they looked up and went pale. As the lads leaped to their feet and rushed down the opposite end of the alleyway, one of them exclaimed, "Run, it's the red hair demon." As she crouched beside the 2 kittens and picked them up, Kushina exclaimed, "Damn brats," and put them on her lap. When she noticed that both kittens had bandages on their foreheads, she crooned, "Ah, you poor little babies." The bandages were applied in an X shape to their foreheads. With their eyelids squeezed shut, both kittens started to struggle and cry harder. Nimwu. Kushina removed the bandage off the black kitten's forehead and said, "Shoo. Calm down, little ones." The kitty opened her eyes slowly and stared up at the red head. Her gaze shifted to the white kitten, and she grinned down at the small black one. She applied the same treatment to the white kitten, removing the bandage as she let it fall to the chilly dirt floor. The white kitten opened his eyes gradually as well. His ruby eyes were staring back at him from his midnight blue gaze. The goddess with the crimson hair in front of them was then seen with both eyes. Kushina gave them both a smile. She informed them, "They're all better. The moons on their foreheads,
both bright and crescent, caught her attention. One tear trickled down her right cheek as she said, "So pretty. You both have the same moon marks as Mama's cat Summons had."
The two kittens leap from her lap and run off. As the long crimson ponytail dropped to the side, Kushina cocked her head.
As she got back up, brushed off her skirt, and headed back down the alleyway to her cousin's house, she thought to herself, strange. There was a big fountain in the center of the village, and the moon's lovely rays were streaming down into the water pool. The full moon caught Kushina's attention.
The moon was Yuzuki.
The memories of her and her mother dancing outside in the garden on the little pond where the moonlight reflected off of them softened her eyes.
Kushina approached the fountain, took off her shinobi sandals, and stepped upon the water cautiously. She started to slowly stand on the water and whirl around while singing a tune her mother used to sing to her whenever they danced in the moonlight. She heard laughter coming from behind her as she was absorbed in her memories. She turned slowly and saw Tsunade standing there, observing her. As Tsunade gently lifted her eyebrow in amusement, she asked, "A moonlight waltz?" At the elderly woman, Kushina smiled.
As she came back out of the fountain and sat down to put on her sandals, she said, "Yeah, something Mama and I used to do all the time during the full moon." Tsunade grinned at the young woman in front of her and said, "I remember seeing Grandma do the same thing when I was a little girl. She would always say that it was the dance of the Moon Maiden."
Kushina approached her and embraced Tsunade tightly.
She gave her a gentle grin as she glanced up at her. Tsunade held the girl for a bit while grinning sweetly and looking down into her eyes. Pulling away from the girl, Tsunade stood in front of her and said, "Maybe we should do this together."
Kushina gazed into Tsunade's warm honey brown eyes and said, "Yes, we should."
Tsunade crossed her arms across her big chest and asked, "So, what did that little brat of that prevert tell you?"
Looking over her shoulder, Kushina asked, "Can we talk somewhere that no one could hear us?" A figure emerged from the shadows, and Kushina and Tsunade recognized it as an NE agent concealed there.
Tsunade put her arm around the girl's shoulder and gave her a quick side hug, saying, "Sure, it would be for the best.
To many years around here anyway."
They made their way to the Senju clan mansion down the moonlit trail. The root ninja, who scuttled softly in the darkness, were constantly under Tsunade's cautious eye. She groaned and gazed up at the ever-shining moon, thinking, "I swear if my grandfather or my granduncle were still alive, that old bastard wouldn't be doing what he is doing now." They went the little route through the woods to the main house after passing the Senju clan estate's gates.
Gazing at her cousin, Kushina said, "Tsunade." Tsunade grinned as she glanced down at the teenage girl.
As she opened the front door and they entered the spacious house, she said to the girl beside her, "Don't worry so much.
He loves you and I know you love him. So what is the problem?" After hearing what she just heard, Kushina's eyes enlarged. She was shocked and said, "How did you know?" "My dear girl.
I know what love-struck girls look like.
I was like that a long time ago and now I have an old fool trying to heal my broken heart." Tsunade grinned. In the dark, the woman sat down and spoke as the two kittens sat on the open windowsill and stared. The white kitten asked, "Luna, do you think we should awaken Serenity?" Luna's dark ruby eyes turned to the white kitten's midnight blue gaze.
She spoke to the now-named Artemis, "Artemis, we have no choice in this matter.
If we don't waken her, who will fight the Dark Kingdom?" "I know Luna.
But she has been through so much. Her mother should have told her a long time ago of the life she was going to have if the Dark Kingdom awoke once more,"
Artemis replied. Returning to the others, the big couch in the center of the living room was occupied by both of them. On the coffee table in front of them, Tsunade already had tea ready for them. As a gentle flush touched her cheeks, Kushina asked, so, I'm that easy to read? Not really. But, I know what to look for.
You're young and Minato is a catch and very kind and blind to all the other girls around him when he sees you walk into a room. Tsunade replied with a smirk on her. Kushina looked down, blushing, and said, he asked me out on a date for tomorrow night.
I told him I would go. After pouring tea for them both, Tsunade gave Kushina the cup. Glancing down into the jasmine tea, the girl accepted the cup. Tsunade looked at the girl and said, don't worry so much. How many dates have you two been on already? Kushina looked up blushing. It's been quiet a few really. He asked me out whenever he gets a chance and drags along his genins at times. But, I think he does that to make me feel comfortable and not worry, said Kushina. Tsunade looked at her and grinned. For the girl, he truly has it pretty back. She has no idea, she thought. Well, don't worry. I think you're the only one he will ever have eyes for, she said to Kushina. On the other side of the village, a man with wild, white hair said, Minato, you will do fine tomorrow night. Minato scowled as she turned to face the man. He questioned, are you sure, sensei? Boy, if there is one thing I know, and that is woman and Kushina will love the ring, he stated to his pupil. Minato addressed his now-named sensei, saying, I hope you're right, Jiraiya. Because I don't want to do anything to upset her and make her never want to talk to me again. As he assisted the small black box in his hand, Jiraiya smiled. The previous student assured him, it is a beautiful silver ring with a Saracen moon with pink diamonds. She will adore it and tell you yes. Minato glanced at the small black box and simply nodded his head. I sincerely hope so, he told himself. Returning with Kushina, the two women turned to face the open window where the two kittens were standing after Luna and Artemis both leaped to the ground. As she got up and approached the two kittens, Kushina exclaimed, wow, they must have followed me. Tsunade saw Kushina get to her feet. Followed you? She inquired, somewhat taken aback. Kushina smiled sweetly and said, yeah, I saved them from some bratty kids. She questioned the two kittens, hey guys, are you two looking for a new home? The two kitties exchanged glances before turning back to Kushina and the blonde woman in the room. The kitten with the crimson eyes said, you can say that, Serenity. Kushina gazed at the red-eyed kitten and asked, Serenity? Yes, you are our princess from the Silver Millennium over 2,000 years ago. Luna and I have been sent by your mother Queen Selenite to find you when you are to usher in a time of peace. As well when the Dark Kingdom had ever awakened, said Artemis as he gazed at Kushina, and Tsunade got up from her chair and approached the kittens, saying, Dark King? Silver Millennium? Those were just stories our mothers told us as children. The elder woman in the room caught the attention of the now-named Luna. Those stories are legends of our past and our history before this world changed and became what you see of it now. I know the Uzumaki clan has bloodlines to the Moon Kingdom. But, it has been so long that no one in the clan had ever awoke the bloodline. To be honest, the only one that would have been able to anyways would be the reincarnation of our queen or our princess, she explained to the two women. Kushina gave the two kittens a look. Before the two kittens and Tsunade put their hands on the girl's shoulder, Kushina sat down on the floor and said, my mother was named Selenite. Kushina gave Tsunade a gentle grin as she glanced up at her. A single tear trickled down Luna's furry cheek as she said, we missed out Queen, we thought we woke in time to meet her in this lifetime. With tears streaming down her face, Kushina remarked, Mother fell with my homeland. She remained behind to protect the wounded. We were unable to move to safety. Tsunade knelt by the girl and wrapped her in her arms, saying, don't blame yourself, Kushina.
Your mother was a strong woman and warrior like no other. She wouldn't want you blaming yourself for her own actions.
She would want you to move on with your life and live it to the fullest. As Kushina returned her hug, she said, I know.
As of now, we do not know if the Dark Kingdom has done anything, and as of now, we are just here to help you reign in a new world of peace.
Artumi said as he came forward. Kushina gave the two animals a head nod.
After 3 years after the conclusion of the Third Shinobi World War, Minto was crowned the new Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. He married Kushina in secret on the night of his coronation because they didn't want their wartime foes to learn.
Pulling his bride into his arms, Minato said, Kushina, my dear, I love you.
As the newlyweds grinned at their student-slash-family, Jiraiya and Tsunade watched from a distance.
Tsunade grinned at Jiraiya and said, I am glad they both were able to find love.
Jiraiya paused, took out a little notebook, and wrote down what he had just said.
That they did.
They have found something so rare that not even we would ever truly understand the magical love they share.
He pondered, that would work for my new book. Tsunade merely gave him a smile without realizing the story he would soon be penning.
She could have prevented the horror from ever occurring if she had known.
Kushina grinned and gave her husband a kiss, saying, I love you to the moon and back, Minato. Together we shall usher in a time of peace for the shinobi world. Minato said, that we will. She didn't fully comprehend the underlying implications of what she was saying.
It was October 10th, 9 months after their wedding night, and Kushina and Minato were in a cave outside of the hamlet.
Tsunade was inside the cave. Tsunade laughed at the anxious father and said, Calm yourself, Minato.
I need you to focus on her seal while she does the hard part and bring your son into this new world.
Minato screamed in agony as Kushina squeezed his hand, and he said, Funny. 30 minutes later, a baby's cries could be heard inside the cave. Tsunade embraced the baby in her arms and said, Congratulations, you are the proud parents of a baby boy. Minato leaps across the chasm at that same moment.
When Tsunade looked up, the baby flew out of her arms and she was kicked in the face. When Kushina saw her newborn son take off, she shouted, but a man wearing an odd orange spiral mask captured him.
The masked man said, I'll return your son. But, you must give me what I want. Fearing for her son, Kushina pushed herself up and glared at the man, asking, What do you want? Glancing back at the mother of the kid after looking down at the newborn. I want what you hold within you. I want the Kyuubi, he said to her.
Her eyes were filled with amazement and dread as she gazed at him.
How? How could he have known that I was the Kyuubi's owner?
She reflected to herself. He smiled as Minato, brandishing a kunai behind the man, stopped as the father used his son as a shield.
Foolish girl. I know more than you will ever know. For your former lover sends a message to you, Serenity. Now, Minato. I can't have you stopping my fun.
Minato gritted his teeth and shouted at the man, Give me our child. He smirked under his orange mask and added, Not before I give Serenity a message from her past lover.
Kushina went pale. How? She reflected to herself. Serenity? Minato asks. The masked man let out a sly chuckle. You could see an evil gleam in the masked man's single red eye as he turned to face Kushina. I see our little moon princess has never told you about her past. Well, this just makes it even more enjoyable to tell you. Endymion sends his best wishes to you on the birth of your child and he hopes to see you soon. As the infant dropped from the masked man's arms, Tsunade leaped back up and punched him. After coughing up the infant, Tsunade turned to face Minato.
As she gave the infant to him, she screamed, "Take your son and get out of here." Without Tsunade noticing his movements at all, the masked man swiftly recovers and emerges in front of her.
What on earth is he? When his fist struck her tummy, she mused to herself. She hit the bow as hard as it was. As she flew across the room, she spat out blood. As Kushina tries to get herself off the bed, the masked man turns and aims again at her. Now, princess. You should just rest, for you just had given birth to that bastard of a child," said the man in the mask. Kushina gave the man in front of her a fierce look. Pulling a kunai she had concealed under the sheets with her, she asked him, "What does Endymion want with me? Isn't he happily married with Beryl?" The man merely chuckled. "She has outlived her usefulness. She is unable to give him what you are able to, my dear," he said. "I will never be Endymion's puppet. That child that posed as my daughter in our past life wasn't even mine. She was the daughter of Pluto," Kushina stated to him. "I know. But he loved the idea of being king of the whole earth. He wanted that power he saw he had when you all went to the future and he saw Crystal Tokyo. But, sadly, without you he will never have what he wishes for. For even with Beryl by his side she wasn't able to give him what he wished for whatsoever," the man replied. The man only laughed and approached her carefully, causing Kushina to go pale. He put his palm over the seal that contained the Kyubi no Kitsune and said to her, "But, before King Endymion gets what he wants, I shall be taking back what is mine." As Tsunade gradually regained consciousness, cries of agony could be heard in the cave. The man was gone, and Kushina was motionless on the bed when she opened her honey-brown eyes to see a slight red glow. However, as she got up and hurried to the woman, she noticed a tear streaming down the side of her cheek. As Tsunade started to work on curing the girl in front of her, she said, "Kushina, what happened?" A few minutes later, Kushina sat up. "Tsunade, I don't know what to do. Kurama is free in doing Celine knows what. As well as my past have come back," she stated to her. The village. The man in the mask materialized in the middle of the village. As the villagers fled, screaming for their lives, a smile spread across his lips. The Kyubi no Kitsune was directly in front of them. More than a century ago, their first Hokage vanquished the toughest of the tail beasts. With lifeless, drowsy eyes, the Kyubi charged through the village. As he fought back alongside everyone who opposed it, it was merely going through the motions. As a shadow clone reappeared in the cave with Kushina and Tsunade, Minato emerged in front of the Kyubi. Minato said, "Who the hell do you think you are attacking my family and my village?" and called for Gamabunta. Jiraiya was standing atop Gamabunta's head when he visited the toads to deliver the news that Minato and Kushina were expecting a child. Jiraiya exclaimed, "What the hell?" as he peered about in disbelief at the devastation surrounding him and the bodies of the wounded and dead scattered across the ground below. He heard Minato shouting, so he turned. When Gamabunta noticed the nine-tailed fox in front of him, he asked, "What is going on here?" A few seconds after the big toad boss narrowed his eyes, a number of other toads showed up to assist their leader and clansmen. Making sure they were the only ones listening, Minato declared, "We were attacked and the Kyubi was set free." He didn't want anyone to know who the jailer was. They all nodded and started pushing the fox away while Minato worked to get it out of the village and his family because his wife and child lived close by. After a few minutes, they purchased Minato everything he needed, and he jumped on top of the fox and Thunder God Flash stepped it, leaving the hamlet behind and returning to the place he had just fled. In other places, as Kushina's hospital gown transformed into a beautiful, flowing white dress and her crimson hair took on a silver sheen,
she forced herself to get out of bed as a silver Saracen moon appeared on her forehead.
Neo Queen Serenity was there before Tsunade and Naruto, not Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze.
As she grinned down at her family, wings resembling fairies sprouted on her back.
When Tsunade observed the two cats that had just emerged, she asked in confusion, "Kekushina?"
Luna exclaimed, "Neo Queen Serenity," as she turned to face her queen. Neo Queen Serenity picked up her son and held him to her body for dear life, saying, "Luna, my dear friend.
I am sorry.
But I must forsake you all and leave my destiny in the hands of my true child. Please watch over and guide Naruto in his hour of need and protect him for that bastard. For his new knights will appear in a few years after his 14th birthday."
The goddess was in front of baby Naruto when he gently opened his eyes.
He never took his eyes off his mother's eyes or the moon on her forehead as he watched her. Combat Zone Minato noticed silver light appear beside him and turned to gaze to his left.
His wife, Kushina, was standing by him.
She did, however, look different.
He couldn't tell if she was an angel or a goddess. "Kush-chan?" Minato asked, glancing at her.
She turned to face her spouse and a gentle, melancholy smile sprang on her lips. She grasped hold to their son and said, "Ninkuen, I'm sorry for never telling you the truth about who I really am."
Minato glanced up at his wife and saw their son. He questioned her, "What do you have planned?"
The terror in his eyes was visible to her.
Kushina turned to face Kurama and said, "Naruto-chan will become what I once was. He will be the one to usher in a new age of peace in my wake."
She broke the genjutsu that was cast on him with her eyes.
Kushina caught Kurama's eye. As he saw her carrying her newborn kid, he questioned, "Kit? What happened?"
She met his gaze, and a single tear trickled down her cheek. As a flower-shaped crystal materialized before her, she said to him, "Naruto-chan will require your help when he grows old.
Please keep my son safe." Behind Minato, the masked man emerged and stabbed Minato with a sword. "I apologize, but it has to be done."
The masked person whispered into Minato's ear, "Because I have plans for him in the future." Then, as a silver light filled the room, it vanished. Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade hurried to the light's location.
Tsunade hung Artemis and Luna on her shoulders. "No, not again," Luna muttered. Tsunade's left eye was fixed on the black cat when she heard her.
Minato crawled closer to his wife as the silver light faded and the kyubi was finished. He glanced up at his wife and said, "Naruto, I'm sorry and I love you, son." He kissed her cheek and his son's forehead before the light went out of his eyes.
"Kushina, I don't care if you kept this from me. I know you had your reason.
But it will never change the fact I loved you with all my heart and soul." As she watched her true love pass away in front of her, tears streamed down her cheeks.
Why do I always alleviate this situation? However, I am aware that this will be my final attempt.
All I can do is raise my son the way my mother raised me in my previous life, she reflected.
Kushina glanced at the new arrivals and said to her son,
"Naruto-chan, I love you and I'm sorry for forsaking you to the fate I once had." Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade, as well as her guardian cats.
"Protect Naruto.
Do not allow anyone to know he is the new keeper of Kurama.
There are scrolls sealed away for Naruto. You must have him being learning them once he is able to read, write, walk, and talk," she stated. As she grinned at her former family, Tsunade said, "I will."
As the silver glow surrounding her started to dissipate, Kushina said, "Sarutobi, please don't let the council know.
Don't tell the elders.
They will just hurt my Naruto-chan and he is destined for great things." He is the future hope for peace in the future. The final words she uttered before the light left her eyes and the crystal that had materialized in front of her gradually dissolved into the baby's body were, Tsunade, Jiraiya, protect Naruto and raise him. Love him and care for him.
Sarutobi turned to face his two pupils.
We must return to the village and tell them what had happened here tonight.
He instructed them. Together, Tsunade and Jiraiya yelled, "Hell no! You are not telling those bastards he is the new jailer?" Tsunade said in a sickly sweet voice, "This will be kept between us, sensei.
Or I will remove that memory of what just happened." The old man swore that he had just witnessed his slow and agonizing death at the hands of her extremely strong hands as the aura surrounding her darkened. In response to her words, he nodded his head. Tsunade scowled at her sensei while picking up the infant again. She assured them both, "I will raise the boy." She simply grinned at them as both men nodded their heads. At the Hokage Tower, the three Hokage, two Sannin, and infant Naruto make an appearance, where the elderly man and his two pupils are awaited by the shinobi and civilian councils. For any mention of their fourth Hokage and the goddess who had vanished to the battlefield where the Kyuubi were engaged in combat with their commander after appearing in the village.
A woman with pink hair asked, "Lord Third Hokage, where is Lord Minato-sama?"
As he received the Hokage hat from Inu, Sarutobi said, "Mrs. Haruno, I will be taking care of that in a moment.
Please be patient." Lord Hokage.
Who was the goddess with the baby we saw before she vanished before our eyes? Said Inoichi. In Tsunade's arms, infant Naruto started crying as if on cue. A crescent moon appeared on the baby's forehead as he opened his cold blue eyes, and she glanced down at him. They had a faint scarlet color to them.
Kurama seemed to be telling the mom that he was inside the baby. Tsunade grinned at Naruto below.
She kissed his crescent moon and said to him, "Oh, my moon child, I will always be with you.
Kurama, please keep him safe as he gets older."
I promise to do everything in my ability to ensure that Naruto grows into a strong, proud man that you two would be proud of from heaven, Kushina and Minato, she thought.
Tsunade sensed that all eyes were on her and the infant.
She glanced up at the council members who were giving them a kunai glare.
Jiraiya gave everyone in the council rooms a scowl.
I regret to inform you that Minato and Kushina both fell in battle against a masked man and the Kyuubi no Kitsune.
He informed them. Danzo limped out of the doorway's shadows and questioned, "What do you mean by a masked man?" before making his way to his seat.
No one saw this masked man that you speak of, Jiraiya. While I was delivering this baby into this world, a masked man in an orange mask with a spiral marking on it. He attacked Kushina as she was giving birth to her son here. Minato did everything in his power to protect his late wife and his son. But when he was taking the baby to safety, I was left to fight the man and protect my only family.
Tsunade says as she holds the newborn near her mother. Danzo asked, "What of the Kyuubi?" Jiraiya never gave his old sensei an opportunity to comment on the events, saying, "Gone." Kushina took it with her in death. Mrs. Haruno asked, "How could that devil of a woman do that?" Tsunade gave the woman a fierce look. "You vile viper. You would never understand the power my cousin held and how she won the heart of Minato," she yelled. Sarutobi, growing weary of the stupid woman with the pink hair, said, "Ladies, this isn't the time nor place to be having this fight. However, Lord Hokage, what kind of power could that devil of a lady possess?" Mr. Haruno cried out. Being from the royal bloodline of Yuzu, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze possessed abilities that none of us could ever fully comprehend. Similar to Lady Mito. Because she was also descended from royalty, she was extremely strong during the First and Second Shinobi Wars until she became too sick to continue fighting.
Like Lady Selenite, the wife of the Uzukage, who stopped more than 5,000 shinobi before falling and who our shinobi saw as they had just arrived when a silver light engulfed the battlefield, leaving nothing but butterflies in its wake, Sarutobi said as he sat down. Shikaku woke up from his snooze and said, I was there that night and it will be something I would never forget in my entire life. Danzo got up and said, then give me the child to mold into a powerful tool for our village.
Never!
As she prepared to kill the man standing there, Tsunade yelled, I, Tsunade Senju Uzumaki, will not permit you to touch this child because I am a member of that royal family and the granddaughter of the first Hobage and granddaughter of the second Hobage. To protect their prince, Tsunade and the other Uzumaki in this town will do whatever it takes. Naruto is the prince of Konoha as well. Because his father is Minato Namikaze, Sarutobi stated, knowing that his village would be targeted by many tonight, along with the child of the late Fourth and the Crimson Demon. He was at a loss for what to do to protect the child and prevent Tsunade from razing the village to the ground.
Pay close attention. For if this information is ever released, what was discussed here today will be considered an SS rank secret. Sarutobi took a puff from his pipe and said, I will know it was the civilian council that has loose lip and you will be put to death. What do you mean when you blame the civilian council for everything? A fat merchant yelled. Because the Shinobi Council is aware of the potential consequences this secret could have on our village should it leak. That would imply that we would be at war with those who wish for the kid of Minato and Kushina to die. Because they are unable to pursue its parents.
For the village is caught in the gunfire, that is death, Hayashi Hyuga said. There was only the sound of a baby's laughs, and the room had become silent. The same man who intended to reveal the knowledge to the highest bidder said, We understand Lord Hokage. Flashback end, crawling out of bed, Naruto smelled the delicious aroma of cooking. The kitchen Jiraiya sat at the kitchen table reviewing the seals he had Naruto working on before bed, while Tsunade stood in front of the stove preparing breakfast for her young Naro-chan.
You have my word, Tsunade-heim. Like his parents, Naruto is a genius, Jiraiya said.
I know, Tsunade said with a smile as she turned to face the man with the white hair. She put the fluffy wrapped eggs on the dish with the bacon and rice and said to him, I think he will outperform us all by the time he joins the academy. Naruto ran into the kitchen as she turned to set the plates on the table.
Naruto leaped onto his seat and said, Morning, Grandma and Grandpa. Morning, brat.
Jiraiya said. Before setting his dish of breakfast in front of the little blonde, Tsunade said, Morning, Naro-chan. He looked down at his food and grinned up at his grandparents. Thank you for breakfast, he said, starting to eat. As she watched him eat, Tsunade thought, he is just like his mother. In order to prevent Naruto from stealing his breakfast, as he has done in the past, Jiraiya set the seals aside. Tsunade also sat down to eat, so that the small black hole before them could consume more food than the three Akimichi combined. Holding a cup of tea and examining her academy homework, Shizune entered the kitchen and said, Good morning everyone. She glanced up long enough to say hello to everyone before leaving the kitchen to head to the Ninja Academy.
When may I go to the Ninja Academy to join Shizune-chan?
Gazing up at the few people he recognized as his grandparents and relatives, Naruto asked.
All right, we could get you in early. However, we do not want to impose it on you at this time.
Because you will be 10 years old. While grinning at him, Tsunade said, We don't want you to be burned out.
She is a real brat.
Therefore, we shall continue to train you in your and our clan's skills for the time being, Jiraiya said.
Naruto nodded and grinned at them both. All right.
As he completed his breakfast, he murmured, Thank you. Kurama, wearing a silver collar with moon faces on it, sat in a meadow and said, "Brat, when you're done here with those two, come and see me.
We'll start your training." All right, Kurama-sensei, Naruto thought.
Since Kushina usually had the same expression on her face, Sannin and Tsunade were able to tell when the small boy was speaking to the fox.
Tsunade also recalled the same expression from her grandmother, Lady Nito.
In other places, a man in a mask said, "Lord Endymion."
After 4 years of reading the scrolls, Endymion glanced up and said, "What do you want, Madara?"
He looked at the man in front of him and questioned.
Kushina has passed away. Without her, how are you going to achieve your goals? Madara was asked.
"I can still have what I want even though the child she is," Endymion said, slamming the scroll down on the table in front of him. He grinned to himself, "I just need to figure out how to get the boy to do what I want."
Why hasn't mommy returned and why is daddy behaving all scary?
Asked the young girl, who was standing out in the shadows with long crimson hair and crimson eyes, as she made her way back to her bedroom. Naruto and Kurama. Naruto went to his bedroom and sat under the window, calming his mind and concentrating on his meeting with Kurama by closing his eyes and slowing his breathing. He opened his eyes slowly and found himself facing the enormous Kyuubi.
Good morning, Kurama-sensei.
Naruto grinned broadly at the enormous fox in front of him.
Good morning. Are you prepared for the lesson today?
As Kurama opened his eyes and turned to face the boy, he asked. With a nod, Naruto created 50 shadow clones, 25 of whom proceeded to the woods and 25 to the tiny lake, each of whom focused his chakra on his feet and set to work learning how to manage it. "I want you to leave those clones with me, return to reality, and complete 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups while running 100 laps around the clan's estate.
When you've completed it,
look for the old toad and practice seals and anything else he wants to teach you.
If he cheats on you once more,"
Kurama said, closing his eyes and falling back asleep, "go find the annoying woman and have her teach you other chakra control exercises." That gave Naruto the signal to depart, and he opened his eyes slowly before sprinting out his bedroom to find Grandpa. Scrolls littered the spotless kitchen table, and Jiraiya, wearing glasses, examined every inch of the scroll he had Naruto working on the previous evening. He slowly closed his eyes as he removed his glasses and turned to face Tsunade, who was sipping tea and reviewing hospital notes. As Tsunade read the night physician's notes, Jiraiya said, "You know this kid has the best hand and eye for seals." As Tsunade laid the report on the table in front of her, she said, "Well, he has been working on the sealing scroll Grandma Mito used in battle. But he has even finished several unfinished seals that she never got to finish before she died."
Really?
"Well, I think it is time that we have him learn about his mother's secret," Jiraiya said, sipping his refreshing tea. Tsunade got up from her seat with a heavy sigh and said, "Okay, let me get the scrolls." As she left the kitchen, Jiraiya picked up Mito's scroll of sealing and examined the seal Naruto was working on, noting that the one he had selected was one she had never completed.
This damn kid.
He is an intellectual, he whispered to himself. At this point, Naruto entered the kitchen and sat down next to the white-haired man, saying, "Hey Grandpa."
Jiraiya turned to face the child and asked, "So, kiddo, what does the old fox want you to work on today?" Did he ask?
"Well, in my head, he has 50 of my shadow clones wandering trees and through water. I then have to take care of all the physical tasks." Naruto grinned at the man in front of him and said, "But I figure I leave a shadow clone with you work on seals with you."
Sounds like he is trying to make you stronger than your father and mother before you.
Jiraiya grinned and ruffled Naruto's hair as he nodded his head in agreement.
Naruto smiled broadly and said, "Yes." His expression was bewildered as he sought an explanation from his grandfather.
He keeps telling me I have to finish something mommy started a very long time ago, he added.
After hearing Naruto's words, Tsunade returned to the kitchen and murmured, "Naruto-chan."
A melancholy grin slowly appeared on her lips as she said, "You have very big shoes to fill."
Really? However, I do have Shizune-chan, you, and my grandfather.
Naruto grinned at her and said, "I'm not alone, and I will have you all there to help me."
Yes, sweet, we will do all in our power to help you in the future. Tsunade replied. Hey, grandmother, what's that object with the moon on it?
Naruto asked, looking at it rather perplexed. These are your mama's scrolls, Tsunade said, setting the scrolls on the table.
She said, maybe for today I want you to not do your physical workout and take these to your room or living room and study these scrolls.
They hold many secrets, and what is within them can change this whole world forever.
All right.
As he examined the pink and silver scrolls in front of him, Naruto said, "It's okay for me to skip for today." He quickly grabbed the scrolls and hurried to his bedroom, realizing that this was the first item he would be learning about his mother. "This should do," he said, setting all the scrolls on his room's little floor table before rushing to his desk and pulling out a fresh notebook and a set of pens.
Hopefully, he said to himself.
Usagi was heading out to enjoy herself with the girls on her 22nd birthday. Something about today is going to change everything for me, Usagi thought to herself as she jumped out of bed and ran into the bathroom. It was shocking that she woke up early this morning because she never got up before 7 a.m. unless she had to go to work or classes.
I'm sure it will be for the best.
Usagi's mother was downstairs preparing a special breakfast for her young daughter.
Oh, I should go wake her up,
Usagi's mother said, heading upstairs only to discover her daughter running back into her bedroom.
Usagi? She inquired.
Then Usagi popped her head out her doorway and disappeared back into her bedroom, closing the door behind her.
I'll be out in a minute, Mom.
Her husband was sitting in the kitchen, sipping his coffee before work, when her mother simply shook her head and murmured, "Morning, dear."
She was startled out of her reverie by this and smiled as she turned to face him. Good morning, my love.
After taking a morning shower, Usagi was already hurrying back to her bedroom when I went up to wake her up, she informed him.
His expression was one of disbelief as he glanced up at his wife. Really? Is our tiny Usagi up already?
Putting down his coffee cup, he turned to face his wife as they both heard her footsteps coming down the stairs and inquired. She entered the dining room with composure, smiled gently at her parents in front of her, and said, "Morning, Mama and Papa." She then went to her chair and sat down.
According to her father, "Morning, Princess."
Her mother said, "I have a special breakfast for you, sweetie." She disappeared into the kitchen and returned a few seconds later carrying 3 plates of food, setting each one down in front of their respective respectful person before setting a big plate containing bunny-shaped pancakes, eggs, and bacon in front of Usagi.
"Sammy, where are you this morning?"
As Usagi started to eat, she asked. As she sat down to eat, her mother remarked, "Oh, he spent the night at his friend's house last night studying for some exam."
Oh.
Oh well, Usagi said, looking down at her meal, "I was expecting to meet him before I left for the day." After saying, "I'll speak with him tonight or tomorrow," everyone fell silent while they ate.
Cheers to your birthday, my love. I'd like to remain longer.
However, her father picked up his cell phone, kissed his wife's cheek, and departed for the day, saying, "But work is calling, and I need to go do some photo shoot."
Goodbye, honey. Happy birthday, my love.
As her mother finished eating and cleared the table, Usagi stood up to go. "I hope you have a wonderful day with the girls," she said. As Usagi made her way to the doorway where her shoes and luggage were waiting for her, she said, "Thanks, Mama, and I'll see you tonight or in the morning." Across town, Ami, Rei, Makoto, and Minako were all sitting in Crown Cafe across town, each holding a cup of coffee.
Remind me why we are awaiting Usagi.
Rei moaned about their commander and princess, saying, "She is going to be late and we will have wasted about 3 hours waiting for her," while she was examining her coffee cup.
Rei, hurry up. Let Usagi rest. She will arrive on time, I'm sure.
Makoto scowled at the girl with the raven hair and said, "Anyway, you're the one who told her to meet us here at 9 a.m. and drag us all here at 7 a.m. I checked to see if I've finished my morning tasks at the shrine."
Rei glared back at the brunette, saying, "I guess we all get an early bite to eat while we wait for Usagi."
As Minako sipped her coffee, she remarked, "Well, it seems you answered your own question."
But what are we going to do for Usagi's birthday today?
Glancing at the other three at the table, she posed the question.
Tonight, we may visit the club.
Makoto grinned at the blonde and said, "I heard they had a hot new DJ at the Shadow Leaf."
Returning to Usagi, Usagi was enjoying the lovely day and took her time strolling.
She had needed a long respite after finishing all of her final exams at the university.
"Mama, when will I have to stop calling Usagi Mama?"
asked Setsuna Mayo, who was around the bend, with her daughter in front of her.
Chibi Usagi was asked.
Usagi heard her future daughter's words as she turned the corner, but no one was looking at her at the time because Setsuna was too preoccupied with Chibi Usagi, and the pink-haired girl was facing away from Usagi. Thinking quickly, Usagi walked back behind the building and rounded to hear what was happening. "Angelia, you understand that we need to continue doing this for a short period, or he'll murder us both," Setsuna told the just christened Angelia. Angelia clenched her fist and stated, "I am just grateful to Celine that I am able to use the lunar magic of the Moon family." Tears were slowly streaming down her cheeks as she said, "I still can't believe that bastard is my father and how he tricked you and Lady Usagi for his own gain."
"Just as I am. However, please continue the act." As she embraced Angelia and gave her a quick kiss on the forehead, Setsuna said, "I don't want him to upset you. Chibi Usagi isn't my daughter. Then why lie to me and make me believe I had her with Mamoru? Who is this man they are talking about and how is he tricking and lying to the both of us?"
Usagi wondered herself as she slid down the wall and sat on the chilly sidewalk.
"We had better go meet the others."
As she and Chibi Usagi started to approach Usagi, Setsuna remarked, "After all, it's Usagi's 22nd birthday." Usagi didn't hear them coming at her until it was too late since she was so absorbed in her thoughts.
"Mom?"
Chibi Usagi was asked. Usagi glanced up at the girl with the pink rabbit hair slowly, wiping the tears from her cheeks and blinking multiple times.
"Oh, hey youngster." "Hi, Setsuna. How are you, my lady?" Setsuna asked, her expression displaying concern. "Yes, I'm all right,"
Usagi said as she slowly got to her feet. "I just fell and needed to sit down for a minute."
"Oh, Mama, you should exercise greater caution."
Chibi Usagi rolled her eyes and said, "A queen should not be constantly falling on her butt." "I can't let them know I know," Usagi thought as she simply grinned and laughed as usual at the two in front of her. "So, what are you two up to today?" she inquired. "We are heading to the Crown to meet up with the others for your birthday," said Setsuna. "Oh, I see. I overlooked it. All of the finals I took over the last 3 weeks have left me with a lot on my mind." Usagi rubbed her left palm behind her head and said, "I hope I passed all my classes because it would be a bummer to have to take them all over again." "I believe you performed well.
Chibi Usagi remarked, "You have been hitting the books harder and harder than even Ami."
Yes, I suppose you're correct. As she maintained her composure and pretended to be normal, Usagi said, "We better go.
I should find out later today what I scored." As they all walked together, she said to the two, "So, the others don't wait too long for us." As she nodded her head and glanced at the two beside her out of the corner of her left eye, Usagi heard a whisper in her heart, "You know who they are talking about. You have questioned his love for you for a long time. Now you truly know he just wants you for what he saw when you went to the future Crystal Tokyo. You are just a pawn in his little game. In other places, my love, Mamoru." A woman with long crimson hair and violet eyes said, "I have something special to tell you." Looking at the woman with the red hair, Mamoru looked up from his book and asked, "Is it Beryl?" As though inquiring about the weather, he asked. Feeling that he didn't give a damn, the newly called Beryl held the white stick to her chest. With a hint of worry in her voice, she informed him, "I am pregnant." An evil smile crept across his lips as he looked at her emotionlessly. This could be a good thing or a bad thing. But, depending on what this baby is, I could use it to replace that brat Angelia and her mother Setsuna. Wipe Usagi's memories of those two and make her believe that Chibi Usagi died and we had another baby. Beryl stepped away from him. As he gazed at her, Mamoru's nasty smile turned to a friendlier one, and he said, "That is wonderful, my love." Strangely, this calmed Beryl, who convinced herself that everything would be well, and he gave her more attention than that moonchild. Later that night, after meeting up and eating lunch at the Crown, the girls all head back to Rei's shrine to get ready and engage in idle chatter about anything and everything. Ironically, Mamoru and Beryl went to the same club as the girls that night to celebrate the news of their baby. Mamoru had lied to Usagi, telling her that he would not return from the States until late July because he had a lot of things to take care of, but he had been back since mid-May and had been hanging out with Beryl the entire time. The girls had grabbed a seat in the rear for privacy in the VIP bar service, and Mamoru had also taken one of the few private rooms that were left close to where Usagi and the others were. Usagi and the others had been in the club for around an hour when Mamoru arrived. "This is fantastic. But I wish Mamoru was here for my birthday," Usagi said, glancing down at the happy birthday text that her boyfriend had sent her earlier. According to Minako, who smiled at her companion, "I'm sure he wishes he was here as well, Usagi. However, we can still dance and have a nice time without him. There won't be any more girls' nights like this because you two are getting married soon," she stated with a joyful smile. "Yes, you are correct." With a shout and a quick nod of her head, Usagi said, "Let's have some fun." She sprang up and left the private booth, only to be stopped in her tracks when the others bumped into her and saw Mamoru and Beryl making love in the corner close to their private area. "More if lame brain," Rei said angrily, wondering why her friend would just stop in the middle of the doorway, but they all peered over Usagi's shoulders and saw what she saw, so she had the answer to her question. Usagi quickly started to back away, which forced everyone back into the room. Haruka got back up and walked to the door, declaring, "I'm going to kill him." Usagi grasped Haruka's sleeve and said, "Please don't." She looked up at the angry woman and said, "It isn't worth it. I have had this feeling for a while that things wouldn't last between us. This just proves my thoughts have been right. I don't give a damn. That bastard has been playing with your heart and thinks it's okay. For what? To become king." Haruka replied with rage. Makoto was already at the door when she said, "I agree, that bastard has hurt you for the last time." Mamoru smiled down at Beryl and pushed her away. He assured her, "This will be a night you'll never forget." With her arms around his neck, Beryl said, "Oh Mamoru, I can't want to be your queen.
As the two lovers prepared to enter their secret chamber, yelling broke through the music as the door of the booth across from them flew open. The pair looked back to see what was happening, but this stopped them.
To only encounter Makoto and Haruka.
When Mamoru looked past the two irate women and noticed Usagi seated on the floor, staring at him and his lover, he said, "Well, fuck." As she attempted to strike him, roared Haruka yelled, "You bastard! How could you do this to her?" Makoto looked at the woman with the red hair and growled, "Usagi loved you and you're here with some bitch." The fact that the woman was Beryl had not yet occurred to him. When the woman's breath caught in her throat, Usagi turned to face her. As the others who were still by her heard the name, the inner scouts' faces lit up with amazement, and she muttered, "Beryl." Makoto heard Rei say something and looked at Usagi. A startled Rei exclaimed, "How could that be Beryl? You finished her off." When Makoto went back to look more closely at the woman in front of her, she narrowed her eyes. What do you think she saw? But the Dark Kingdom's former queen. As Haruka looked more closely at the woman, Makoto said, "Beryl, you bitch. How did you make it out of that fight still alive?" Beryl gripped Mamoru's jacket from behind him and glared at the two women. As she kissed Mamoru's neck, she snarled, "That is something I do not need to tell you. All you need to know is that he is mine and that little moon princess is powerless to do anything about it." Usagi got to her feet, having finally had enough of this. She pushed Makoto and Haruka out of her way as she left the room. She grinned as she stood in front of the two. "That is fine. You can have him. All he has ever done to me was lie. The pink-haired child over there isn't ours. She is the daughter of Setsuna and they had been threatened by him to pretend that the child belongs to me. I have doubt that whatever you two are doing would have been kept in the shadows, so he could get the power he wants as the future king of Crystal Tokyo. But I have bad news for him. It will never happen," she told him as she took the ring that he threw it at her. Usagi looked to the others and grinned after saying that. As she entered the dance floor and started dancing with an unknown man, she said to them, "Well, let's go back to having some fun." Everyone shook and stood in quiet. Usagi seemed to have come to terms with whatever the devil had happened in front of them. She believed she loved the man with all her heart, but she was done with him. Haruka started giggling uncontrollably. Looking at Mamoru, she remarked, "This is rich. My little kitten has a strong will and a backbone made of iron. Well, it sucks to be you. A king of nothing." All the others followed Usagi, who partied into the night, leaving Mamoru and his terrified lover in shock and rage. Alongside Naruto, he had discovered that his mother had left him to read these memory scrolls. It was only in case he returned and attempted to harm or murder his mother or her relatives. Well, damn. Mom was a strong woman in that past life and had good friends that stood by her. But I want to know if she ever brought about that Crystal Tokyo? He asked himself. Naruto simply sat on his bed and looked over the scroll again, noting that at the very bottom was a photograph of Mamoru with Beryl that someone had taken that evening, followed by other images of the scouts and his mother from the past, who was stunning with her blue eyes and long golden hair. "I promise you, Mom. I'm going to stop that jerk. I promise to work hard and ensure that he is never reborn again," Naruto swore. As the child read the scroll, Tsunade and Jiraiya stood just outside his bedroom and said, "Man, the poor girl was just being used for power." Jiraiya shook his head and said, "That is terrible to consider." After discovering more about his mother's past, Tsunade sighed and said, "This also means the council will try to put the CRA on him once he is a shinobi and is older." He is his parents' legacy and will bring about the peace we all so wish for, she said.
We will have to be more careful in the future.
I just hope he can do it, Jiraiya said, nodding his head in agreement.
For someone so young, that is a lot to put on them.
With a sly smile, Tsunade said, this boy has shocked us so far in the past few years.
Jiraiya took a step back and agreed that he has.
The 15th birthday of Naruto. 11 years had passed since Naruto first learned about his mother and her family, and the power he would awaken as he grew older. Over the years, he has developed new abilities, some of which were previously believed to be exclusive to the female members of the clan. One such ability was the chakra chains, which he acquired on his 8th birthday after becoming lost near the Forest of Death and being attacked by a pack of wild wolves. In other words, he defeated the Alpha and returned home with 2 talking wolf cubs, because that pack was the same one from which Tsuna. His chakra level was higher than a Kage's when he turned 10, and it was gradually getting bigger until he had overtaken both Jiraiya and Tsunade. This didn't surprise them because his mother was the same way, and with the fox in his belly, he was only going to get stronger and more powerful. At 15, the child was essentially a one-man army, Hyambu in stealth, taijutsu, and ninjutsu. He had been studying his mother's fighting style and sword style, making him the Golden Red Death of Konoha. He was also studying his father's fighting style and flash step. Danzo didn't have the courage to try to flip the boy since every time he went close, the boy was only made weaker by his hidden, eerie small eyes. However, Naruto had been studying day and night for the Genin graduation exam, which was scheduled for the upcoming week. He wanted to demonstrate that he was a great ninja and that winning Rookie of the Year wouldn't hurt him because Sasuke Uchiha was the only person vying for the title, and he had no chance of losing to that jerk. With 4 summon contracts in front of him, toads, lunar cats, ligers, and dragons, Naruto was examining family scrolls while seated at the kitchen table. He turned to face his grandmother and said, "Grandma,
which one ought I to pick?" Tsunade was brewing tea when he asked.
As she poured them both teas, she glanced at him from the kitchen counter and said, "I'm not sure."
"In your opinion, which one would best suit your fighting style?" she questioned him.
For a minute, Naruto sat there contemplating what she had said. The ligers would.
In addition, dragons are used to battle more powerful summons. However, the toads might also be useful.
As he ran his fingers over his forehead's crescent moon, he said, "I know the lunar cats, and I can sign them anyway, because they know my family history and had been keepers of the royal lunar family." As she approached with a tray including teacups and candies, Tsunade shook her head and informed him, "The lunar cats are not fighters and just advisors and would be a summon subcontract and the other summons wouldn't mind." "Why don't you sign the liger and dragon?" said the 2 wolves who were lying by him. Huddy closed her eyes and resumed her snooze, saying, "If you ever get a mate, have her sign the toads or leave it for when you have pups."
Skull followed his sister's example and went back to sleep, saying, "I wouldn't hurt to try."
As Naruto examined the 2 ancient scrolls that had not had summoners in more than a century each, he thought, they do have a point. With a silver scroll that appeared ancient compared to all the other scrolls the guy had ever given the youngster throughout the years, Jiraiya bursts into the kitchen. "I discovered the Whirlpool's Master Scroll." But with all eyes on him, Jiraiya said, "It might be the Master Scroll to the Moon Kingdom."
"How did you discover it?" asked Naruto, who was staring at the elderly man in disbelief.
Jiraiya smiled and placed it on the table in front of Naruto. "I made an appearance 3 days ago when I went back to the whirlpool to complete my dig and check what my workers had discovered.
Because I was aware that Kushina didn't have everything and that the island had more to offer.
Since this scroll was in a secret room inside the vault, her parents didn't have enough time to collect them all. It always had a carving of a lovely realm that appeared to be in the heavens. He informed them, "I was searching the vault for anything that could help you in the future when I noticed the wall glowing 3 days ago, and I knew it was something very special."
Naruto exclaimed, "Wow!